to speak from a fairly technical point of view about what we saw when we viewed the film today. I will speak from the educator's point of view. And the first question I asked was, why was Santosh not in school? And I imagine that's a question that several of you may have asked. He's 11 years old, should have been in school. But when we think of the responses to that question, they take us away from the notion of education itself and what I could say as an educator. They go into many other realms over which I have not many ideas or control. So we come back to the notion of education, of learning. And for all of us who viewed this film, what did we learn? What did we understand? What more would I like to know after having viewed this film? And this is an answer, this is a response that each of you would make, depending on where you come from and what you bring to the viewing of the film. Let me take you to the title of the piece that I would like to speak with you for a little while now. How would high schoolers respond if they were to view this film? And that is something I can speak about as an educator. We've done this kind of thing at our school more than once. And it works around the notion of awareness. So if we see this film as text, and a group of high school students from grade 9 through 12 were to view this film after viewing it, they would ask very similar questions. Why was Santosh not in school? The idea is to provide a space where they could ask several questions. What is it about? What did I think it was about? It is important to give young people the opportunity to respond to each of those questions individually. So we tend to allow them to write. I do that when I work with young people. Allow them to write their responses. So every student gets a chance to respond. And then they share what they've written. And the questions go like this. What was it about? What did I see? What did I gather? What were the issues that I saw? What could have been the purpose of the person who made this film? Did he or she achieve that purpose? Could I see some evidence of that in the film itself? What more would I want to know? And these are some of the questions, the responses to which become the basis for a discussion amongst the students. It is important that they listen to each other because that helps them grow perspective. They recognize that there's more than one response. And in listening to their peers, they are able to gather a broader view of what they have seen. But we don't leave it at that. There is another aspect to the film which becomes significant. And this is about the process of filmmaking itself. Ram has described the film as an observational documentary. And it is largely that. It is about being in that observational mode, the onlooker. Rarely is there any judgment made by the filmmaker about what's happening in the film. Yes, there are a couple of actors who make some evaluative statements within the film. But the film itself shows, it doesn't tell. And we try very hard to get our students to recognize the importance of that you can view something without being judgmental about it. That being non-judgmental helps you to achieve an objective state from which you could perhaps learn more. And so the process, the details, the ways in which the camera pans are all things that we look at and we discuss. This becomes the second stage of discussion after the content. We look at not just the what, but also the how and the why. After all of these discussions, it is important to help each student reflect on what he or she has learned, because that's where the real learning happens, when they're able to introspect about what they have seen, what they have thought and responded to, and what they have heard from their peers. That's where the real learning happens. Reflections can take various modes. They can be written, they can be spoken, they can be thought about, they can even be converted into a short film or a piece of animation. But that reflection is important because that's where students begin to think about the issues, begin to think about what they've seen. And then the third phase is perhaps a little later, based on what they have learned and understood, what action they could take. We're talking about 15, 16, 17-year-old students. And while they get quite caught up in this, and they do get involved and engaged, and they want to take all kinds of action, it really begins with awareness. Their own awareness, increasing their awareness, and creating awareness in others. This can happen within the school. It can happen outside the school in the neighborhoods that they live in. But it's truly important for them at this stage to recognize the importance of understanding what they've seen, of becoming more aware, and of increasing that awareness. In this, we look at other stakeholders as well. So the students can talk with their teachers, the students can talk with their peers, they can talk with their juniors. We even invite parents in for question and answer sessions related to many of these issues. And substance abuse is only one of the issues that comes out of a film like this. So the action that they take can be immediate, it can also be over a period of time. But it is very important for students to at all times be able to articulate, to ask those questions, sometimes difficult, sensitive questions, to respond to those questions, to address them, to enter into those gray areas where everything is not a clear good or bad, right or wrong, and to recognize that the world that they're going into could be an uncertain one, but they need the coping skills and strategies that will help them to cope. So recognizing there is uncertainty is the beginning, and then learning how to deal with it takes them further. I'd like to end by saying that this film has made us think more about these issues, and I hope you will be able to answer the questions for yourself that I mentioned at the beginning. Thank you to my colleagues. Thank you.